Hey there, Fletch from All Things Overlanding here, and on today's episode of the podcast, I'm going to be talking about trends to look out for in overlanding in 2024. And what kind of spawned this was that I saw an article from FrontRunner from a couple of years ago, and I kind of picked my way through there and cherry-picked some things out of there that I think will continue into 2024. So I'm going to touch on a few of those topics here in today's episode and tell you what I think we can look forward to in 2024 as far as the overlanding trend is concerned. So if you want to hear more about that, stay tuned.
Understand where it came from, but you got it, my got it. It began in the land of the sandstorm. I fought it, though I wanted everything to do with what you give to me.
All right, guys, so as I mentioned in the intro, today I'm talking about overlanding trends that I think we will see in 2024. I'm going to break this out into three sections for this podcast. Section one is going to be luxury increasing, right? The continued rise in more expensive and nicer gear for overlanding. The second part is going to be more and more people kind of doing workcations where they are still working, but they're traveling around. And then thanks to the invention of Starlink and other technologies and dual battery setups and things like that, the continued evolution of those things that allow us to get out further and stay longer, it's allowing people also to have more flexibility in their work lives, right? And a lot of people work from home now. So I think we'll see a lot more of that. And then the third thing is going to be wellness, right? I think that as everything gets more stressful, as inflation is high, as there's a bunch of these geopolitical things going on in the world, people are looking for an escape. And I think in 2024, overlanding is going to be one of those things that a lot of people sort of gravitate to or find for the first time. And if you're one of those people, if you're a new person, especially if you're watching on YouTube or Spotify, drop a comment down in the comments below and let me know, because I'd love to hear from you. Like, what are your thoughts? Do you agree with these things? So let's start with the luxuries increasing, right? So as we've seen over the last few years, when I started doing overlanding 3 or 4 years ago, rooftop tents were extremely expensive and they were not that common, right? Like they weren't that common. People were using ground tents. People were sleeping in their rigs, building platforms, that kind of thing. And then as the search volume grew, as people started to attend the expos in more and more quantity, and you started to see more and more business being done for overlanding gear and more hunger for that, brands started to really try and innovate, right? They started trying to bring some new stuff to market. They started trying to compete for a chunk of that pie of revenue, right? So we're a capitalist country here in America, so everything revolves around money, right? So if someone can make money from a thing, they're going to do it, right? So I think overlanding became kind of the hot thing around 2020, 2021, and then it started to escalate from there. Now, I think we're going to continue to see that, right? We're seeing rooftop tents with dual hinges and triple hinges and bending roofs, and I mean, the things are getting crazy and more luxurious all the time. The mattresses are getting better. My $1,600 Nature Nest tent has a condensation mat. It has really nice locking latches. It has a really big awning. It's an aluminum clamshell tent, and it costs about a half to a third of what a lot of these things that were less luxurious than this cost a year or two ago. So again, the prices are going to be driven down, but they're also going to be driven up on those more luxurious items. Same with like teardrop trailers, campers, that kind of thing. They're getting more and more expensive, more and more crazy all the time. There's $50, $60, $80,000 trailers out there. And then even the cheapest ones are like 10 to 25 now, right? So I think that we will see an increase in that, because I think there are people with disposable income that want more of that luxury. While they say they want to go overlanding, they really just want to be comfortable and enjoying the outdoors, which no problem with that at all. I'm not passing judgment at all. I'm kind of a tough it out and just do with it what you will. It's about 40 degrees right now, and I'm in a sweatshirt and a t-shirt, and I'm kind of cold, if I'm being honest. So luxury is not something that I focus on, but a lot of people do. Right? I think it opens the world up for a lot of folks when they can be more comfortable and enjoy the wilderness without being miserable, right? So I think that theme of more luxury will increase as we continue down this path, building this thing called overlanding, right? In America especially. So then next, the workcation. I will say for a fact, I'm down here today. It's a Friday. I left in the early afternoon because I had some videos to shoot for you guys and some podcasts to shoot for you guys. And I brought my computer with me. I'm actually in a site, a dispersed site out in my local national forest, but I happen to have a couple bars of LTE. And I got some emails on my way here. And when I pulled into my campsite, I sat in my truck for 20, 30 minutes and pulled my computer up, and it actually worked. But because I have some flexibility in my schedule, because I work from home and I have the ability to, as long as I get my stuff done, I can leave and drive an hour and a half, 2 hours south to go camping. I was able to do that thing and then still get my work done and still keep everybody happy. So I think that you will see an increase in that. Now, another thing that is really new and still pretty expensive is, the options like Starlink or WeBoost. I have a WeBoost. It's about $500. It was not cheap. It was a big decision to kind of decide to pick that thing up. It actually involved my dog getting sick, and that was kind of what drove me over the edge. I was like, I couldn't get in touch with my wife, and I was like, I need to be able to get in touch. So I bought a WeBoost. And now they have Starlink, right? Which is amazing. You could be sitting out here in the middle of the woods connected to satellites and have really fast, really reliable internet, which is amazing. Like if I could sell my house tomorrow, my wife would kill me. But if I could do that and sort of travel around and just, pick a parking lot to work in during the day or pick a dispersed camp spot to sit on my tailgate and work off my Starlink, that would be incredible. I would love to do something like that as I get older, right? So I think that the flexibility in people's work schedules, I think that the flexibility in the entrepreneurial efforts from people, there are a lot of people sort of doing their own hustles, doing their own side hustles because you have to make it nowadays. Those people are figuring out ways to work remotely and do it from wherever they want. And then that coupled with the technology of Starlink, of WeBoost, of, better and better cell phone reception, more and more towers, obviously that's kind of the wave of the future. There's putting out more and more towers every year for more and more coverage. We're eventually going to be connected everywhere we go. And what that does is it just frees us up, right? It frees us up to be able to still do our work, still do our job, still be, reasonably productive for our clients or our customers or whatever, sort of business you're in, and allow you to both do sort of something more like overlanding or the nomad kind of lifestyle or van life type lifestyle while also still working. I know a number of people that do this already, actually, and they've just been sort of struggling, or they'll hop on Wi-Fi at like a restaurant, right? But once it becomes more and more inexpensive and readily available, I think that we'll see more and more people kind of leaning into that lifestyle. I've actually told my wife a couple times, you know what, we ought to get like a 4x4 Nissan 3500 NV, a Nissan NV 3500 like full-size van and kit it all out on the inside. And when we retire, quote unquote, we could just tool around in the van. We don't have to wheel it. We don't have to do a ton of crazy stuff, but just the room inside of it, the ability to sleep inside of it, if the weather's bad, to work inside of it would be kind of a game changer. And to have a van like that versus some sort of a big Winnebago or something crazy like that would give you a lot of flexibility in where you could camp, where you could stealth camp, that kind of thing, and could be a lot of fun while also still being able to do some consulting work or do something on the side to generate some income. And then the last part of this podcast / video for YouTube is wellness, right? Like with all the things going on in the world, with all the things that we all deal with all the stress, most couples are both dual income earners, right? Husband and wife are working, husband, wife, whatever you are working. And since everybody's working and you've got kids in all these sports and you've just got so much going on in your lives and family and social media, and there's just everything. There's so much stress out there in the world that sometimes it's kind of tough to disconnect. I think you're going to see more and more people looking for outlets like camping, overlanding, van life, any sort of thing like that where they can kind of get away, enjoy nature, reconnect with nature, right? You're going to see an increase in that, or at least a continuation. So that is another trend I think in 2024 that we're going to see continue is, the idea of wellness, traveling for wellness, camping for wellness, adventuring, exploring for wellness, right? It's a trend that started in 2020. If you think about it, when COVID came around, everybody was kind of cooped up in their houses and they wanted to go somewhere. They knew they couldn't go near people, so they went away from people. And we went out into the woods and we dispersed camp. And I tell you what, I was already kind of into overlanding for like a year and a half before that. But when that hit, I was like, this is my time. Like, this is my excuse, right? I could go every weekend if I want. We can't go hang out with friends. We don't have any plans anymore. Like, let's go overlanding. So again, it does help with your mental health. I did a previous podcast episode that if you're watching on YouTube, I'll put a card up here in the top right-hand corner that you can click on and go watch. But I did do an episode previously about like mental health and overlanding and how positive of an influence overlanding can be on your mental health. So I think that will continue into 2024. But so those are kind of my thoughts, right? Again, if you are on YouTube where you can leave comments, Give me your thoughts. What did I miss anything? Are there other trends that you guys are seeing that you think will be big in 2024? And if so, what will it be? I'd love to hear from you guys. If you are on the podcast, there's a million ways to interact with all things overlanding. Go over to Facebook, go over to Instagram, go to TikTok, wherever you want to hang out, come hang out. I'd love for you to join the conversation over there and say, hey, I watched this episode, and post a link to the video or the podcast and say, here are my thoughts. That'd be awesome. I'd love to chat with you that way, wherever you want to chat. Also in the description down below is a link to my website where I've got funny stickers and patches, overlanding, camping themed stickers and patches. So if you're into that kind of stuff, check that out. And then last but not least, there is a link to my Patreon group where we have a 24/7 Discord. We kind of chat about our rigs and gear and that sort of thing all the time. And it's a ton of fun. It's also a great way to support the channel if you want to do that thing. So no pressure whatsoever, but if you want to, check that out. And then of course, the Newbie Overlanders Facebook group, totally free to join, tons of awesome people in there, and it's a ton of fun. So if you're looking for a place to kind of help new overlanders, or if you are a new overlander and you want help, you want to ask questions, that's a great place to start. So check that out. Again, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. That'll do it for this episode of the podcast, and we'll see you next week.